The halls of Westridge High School were buzzing with excitement as students discussed graduation plans. Everyone except Lily Chen. She wheeled herself through the crowded hallway, clutching her books against her chest, her eyes fixed on the colorful posters announcing the upcoming ceremony. 2 more weeks, she whispered to herself, her feelings a mix of pride and dread. Lily was at the top of her class. Her teachers praised her intelligence, her dedication, and her resilience. What they didn't know was how lonely she felt, especially when talk turned to graduation celebrations. As she made her way to AP Physics, her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a text from her father. "Can't make our dinner tonight. Company crisis. We'll make it up to you." Lily sighed. She wasn't surprised. Thomas Chen, CEO of Future Tech Solutions, had been making the same promise for 3 years now, ever since the accident that took her mother's life and left Lily paralyzed from the waist down. "Another rain check?" asked her best friend Zoe, who had been walking beside her. Lily nodded, forcing a smile. "He's busy. It's fine." But it wasn't fine. She had hoped to talk about graduation night, to ask if he would be there, to tell him how important it was to her. Now that conversation would have to wait. Again, the physics classroom was already full when they arrived. Mr. Patel, their teacher, was setting up a demonstration at the front. "Ah, Lily, just in time. Would you mind helping me with this gravity experiment? Your lab notes from last week were exceptional." Lily welcomed the distraction. In the classroom, she wasn't the girl in the wheelchair or the CEO's daughter who everyone thought had it all. She was just Lily, the girl who could solve complex equations faster than anyone else and who dreamed of becoming an astrophysicist. After school, Lily waited outside for her driver. Most kids took the bus or drove themselves home, but her father insisted on the private car service. It was one of the many ways he tried to make up for his absence, with things instead of time. When the sleek black car pulled up, Lily wheeled herself toward it. The driver, Mr. Rodriguez, jumped out to help her. "Good afternoon, Miss Lily. How was school today?" "It was okay," she replied as he carefully folded her wheelchair and placed it in the trunk. "My dad canceled our dinner again." Mr. Rodriguez nodded sympathetically as he helped her into the back seat. "He called me. Asked me to take you home first. He said he left something for you." Their house, or mansion as Zoe called it, stood on a hill overlooking the city. It was beautiful, modern, and felt emptier with each passing day. As they pulled into the circular driveway, Lily could see lights on in her father's study. So he was home, just too busy to have dinner with her. Inside, on the kitchen counter, she found a small gift box with a note. "Sorry about dinner. Hope this makes up for it. Love, Dad." The box contained a beautiful gold bracelet with tiny star charms, a nod to her love for astronomy. It was thoughtful, but it wasn't what she wanted, what she needed. Lily placed the bracelet back in its box and wheeled herself to her room. Her walls were covered with posters of galaxies and famous women scientists. Her telescope stood by the window, pointing toward the sky she loved to explore on clear nights. She pulled out her laptop and opened the document titled Graduation Speech. As class valedictorian, she would be speaking in front of everyone. She had been working on this speech for weeks, trying to find the right words to inspire her classmates. But tonight, the words wouldn't come. Instead, she opened her email and started typing a message to her father. "Dad, I need to talk to you about graduation. It's in 2 weeks. I'll be giving a speech. I really want you to be there. Not just as the keynote speaker the school invited, but as my dad. Please make time to discuss this with me." Her finger hovered over the send button. Would it make any difference? She had sent similar messages before. Sometimes he replied with promises. Sometimes there was no reply at all. She closed her laptop without sending the email. Maybe it was better to expect nothing. That way, she wouldn't be disappointed. The next morning, Lily woke up to the sound of rain tapping against her window. Perfect weather to match her mood. She got ready for school, a process that had become routine but still took twice as long as it did before the accident. By the time she wheeled herself to the kitchen, she was alone. A note on the refrigerator informed her that her father had left for an early meeting. At school, the graduation buzz continued. Students chattered about after-parties, family celebrations, and gifts they expected. Lily smiled and nodded at all the right moments, but inside, a knot was forming in her stomach. While everyone else planned family photos and celebration dinners, she was preparing to sit alone. During lunch, the guidance counselor, Mrs. Torres, stopped by Lily's table. "Lily, do you have a minute? I'd like to talk about the community service hours you still need to complete before graduation." Lily had forgotten about that requirement. With everything else on her mind, the 20 hours of community service had slipped away. "I haven't started yet," she admitted. "Is it too late?" Mrs. Torres shook her head. "Not at all. In fact, I have the perfect opportunity. The community center needs tutors for their college preparation program. It's 2 hours after school, 3 days a week. You'd be done just in time for graduation." It wasn't how Lily had planned to spend her final weeks of high school, but maybe the distraction would be good for her. "I'll do it," she said. That afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez drove her to the community center, a modest building downtown that offered various programs for the neighborhood. Inside, the walls were painted with bright murals, and the air smelled of coffee and hope. The program coordinator, Mrs. Diaz, greeted Lily warmly. "We're so glad you're here. We have several students who could use help with science and math, but one in particular who's struggling with college application essays. Would you mind starting with her?" Lily agreed and was led to a small room where a girl about her age sat staring frustratedly at a notebook. The girl looked up when Lily entered, surprise crossing her face at the sight of the wheelchair. "Hi, I'm Lily," she said, extending her hand. "I'm here to help with college essays." The girl hesitated for a moment before shaking Lily's hand. "I'm Naya, and I hate writing essays. Science makes sense, math makes sense, but this," she gestured at her notebook, "feels impossible." Lily smiled, genuinely this time. "Well, I love science and math too, but I also love finding the right words. Maybe we can figure this out together." For the next 2 hours, Lily helped Nia brainstorm ideas for her personal statement. As they worked, they discovered they had more in common than they initially thought. Both loved astronomy, both had faced challenges, and both carried dreams bigger than their current circumstances. As the session ended, Lily felt lighter than she had in weeks. For 2 hours, she hadn't thought about her father's absence or the looming graduation ceremony. She had simply been present, helpful, needed. "Same time on Wednesday?" Nia asked as they packed up. Lily nodded. "I'll be here." On the drive home, she looked out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the early evening darkness. They reminded her of stars, distant but bright against the growing night. For the first time in a long while, Lily felt a small spark of hope. Maybe graduation wouldn't be what she had always imagined, with her mother smiling from the audience and her father beaming with pride. But perhaps it didn't have to be completely lonely either. Perhaps there were other kinds of connections to be found, other ways to mark this milestone. As the car pulled into their driveway, she noticed her father's car was gone. Another late night at the office. But tonight, the empty house didn't feel quite as empty. Tonight, she had helped someone else find their words, and in doing so, she had begun to find something of her own again, a sense of purpose beyond the pain and loss. Lily wheeled herself to her room and opened her laptop. The graduation speech document was still there, waiting. She began to type, words flowing more easily now. Words about resilience and unexpected connections. About finding light in darkness. About moving forward, even when the path ahead seemed impossible to navigate. She wrote late into the night, under the glow of her desk lamp, with the stars watching through her window. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, this moment was enough. This small victory, this tiny flame of possibility, was enough to keep the darkness at bay for one more night. The community center bustled with activity as Lily wheeled herself through the main entrance for her third tutoring session. The once unfamiliar building now felt welcoming, its worn floors and bright walls a stark contrast to the cold perfection of her home. "Lily, over here!" Nia waved from a table near the window, her curly hair bouncing as she moved. Unlike their first meeting, there was no awkwardness now, just genuine excitement. Sorry I'm late, Lily said, positioning her wheelchair at the table. Traffic was terrible, Nia shrugged. No worries. I was just telling my dad about how you helped me fix my essay. He couldn't believe I actually turned it in early. Lily hadn't noticed the man sitting at the next table nursing a cup of coffee. He looked up and smiled, crow's feet crinkling around his kind eyes. He wasn't what Lily had expected. While Nia was always neatly dressed in colorful clothes, her father wore faded jeans and a simple blue work shirt with Bob stitched over the pocket. So you're the miracle worker, he said, extending his hand. I'm Robert Taylor, but everyone calls me Bob. Nia hasn't stopped talking about you since Monday. Lily shook his hand, noticing the calluses on his palm. I'm Lily Chen, and there's no miracle, just teamwork. Nia did all the hard parts herself. Not true, Nia protested. My essay was a mess until you showed me how to organize my thoughts. Bob laughed, a warm sound that seemed to fill the room. Well, either way, I'm grateful. College applications are completely different from when I was her age. I try to help, but he shrugged. Single dad doing his best isn't always enough. There was no self-pity in his voice, just simple truth. Lily felt a pang of something. Respect, maybe, or recognition of a different kind of struggle than her own. Dad has to run, Nia explained. He just dropped by to meet you before his shift starts. Bob nodded, checking his watch. Night shift at Westridge High. The floors don't clean themselves, unfortunately. He picked up a thermos. Nice meeting you, Lily. Thanks again for helping my girl. As he walked away, Lily felt a sudden connection to this man she had just met. He was a janitor at her school, someone she had probably passed 100 times without noticing. Yet here he was, working nights to support his daughter's dreams, making time to meet her tutor, being present in ways her own father, with all his wealth and power, never managed to be. Your dad seems nice, Lily said as she helped Nia pull out her latest draft. He's the best, Nia replied without hesitation. Works himself to the bone for me. 2 jobs most of the time, but he never misses the important stuff. Lily nodded, trying not to let envy color her thoughts. You're lucky. I know, Nia said simply. It's been just us since Mom left when I was 8. He's had to be both parents. Not always easy, but he tries. She paused, looking at Lily curiously. What about your parents? Are they as smart as you? The question caught Lily off guard. She rarely talked about her family situation with anyone except Zoe. Most people at school already knew who her father was, the famous Thomas Chen, tech innovator and local business celebrity. They assumed his success defined her life. They had no idea how little he featured in her daily reality. My mom died 3 years ago, Lily said quietly. Car accident. I was in the car too. That's how... She gestured to her wheelchair. Nia's face fell. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. It's okay, Lily assured her. You couldn't have known. And my dad... She hesitated, unsure how to explain. He's very busy. He runs a big company. Something about Nia's open, non-judgmental expression made Lily continue. He's giving the keynote speech at my graduation in 2 weeks, but I don't think he even remembers I'm in the same ceremony, or that I'm valedictorian. The words hung in the air between them. Lily hadn't meant to reveal so much, but once she started, the truth spilled out like water from a cracked dam. Nia reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's rough. Some parents are physically gone, others are just gone even when they're there. The simple understanding in those words made Lily's eyes sting with tears. She blinked them away quickly, not wanting to derail their session. Anyway, she said, forcing brightness into her voice. Let's look at your scholarship application. That deadline is coming up fast. They worked for the next hour, the conversation shifting to safer topics, college choices, career dreams, favorite constellations. By the time they finished, Lily felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in months. There was something freeing about being known as just Lily, not as Thomas Chen's daughter or the girl in the wheelchair who defied expectations. As she waited for Mr. Rodriguez to pick her up, Lily sat outside the community center, enjoying the warm evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. A few blocks away, she could see the glittering towers of downtown, including the Future Tech building where her father was probably still working. A door opened behind her, and Bob stepped out, now wearing a jacket over his work clothes. Waiting for your ride? He asked, stopping beside her wheelchair. Lily nodded. My driver should be here soon. Bob raised an eyebrow at the word driver but didn't comment. Instead, he said, "Nia told me you're graduating from Westridge too. Quite a coincidence that I work there." "Small world," Lily agreed. "She also mentioned you're giving a speech. Valedictorian?" His voice held genuine admiration. Lily felt her cheeks warm. "Yeah, still working on the speech, though. I'm sure it'll be great." Bob glanced at his watch. "I should get going. Don't want to be late." He hesitated. "You know, if you ever need anything at school, a quiet place to practice that speech maybe, just let me know. I know all the best spots." There was such sincere kindness in his offer that Lily found herself smiling. "Thanks. I might take you up on that." As Bob walked away, Lily watched him go, thinking about how different he was from her father. Bob wore his responsibilities visibly in his worn clothes, his calloused hands, his punctuality. Her father's burdens were hidden behind expensive suits and executive meetings, visible only in the rare moments when grief cracked his carefully maintained facade. Over the next week, Lily found herself looking forward to her tutoring sessions more than anything else. At the community center, she wasn't defined by her wheelchair or her father's status. She was valued for what she could contribute, for her mind and her words. During her fourth session, Nia arrived looking troubled. "Everything okay?" Lily asked as they settled at their usual table. Nia sighed. Dad's boss scheduled him to work during graduation. They're doing a deep clean of the gym before summer break, and he's the only one with keys or something. She shook her head. "It's stupid. He's been talking about my graduation for months. Now he might miss it." Lily felt her friend's disappointment as if it were her own. "Can't he explain how important it is?" "He already tried," Nia said. "They don't care. And we need the money, so—" She trailed off, then forced a smile. "Anyway, he's trying to find someone to cover for him. Let's focus on your stuff today. How's that speech coming?" They spent the session reviewing Lily's graduation speech. Nia listened attentively, offering suggestions and encouragement. By the end, Lily felt more confident about the words she would deliver to her classmates. As they packed up, Nia hesitated. "Hey, would it be weird if I came to your graduation? Since we go to different schools but graduate the same day, our ceremonies are at different times. Mine's in the morning, yours is afternoon. I could come cheer for you, maybe?" Her voice grew quieter. "And if my dad can't make his shift change, at least you'd have someone there specifically for you." The offer caught Lily by surprise. They'd known each other less than 2 weeks, yet here was Nia, offering what her own father couldn't guarantee: presence, support. Someone in the audience who saw her as more than an obligation or an afterthought. "I'd like that," Lily said softly. "Thank you." That night, Lily found her father in his home office, surrounded by screens displaying charts and documents. She knocked on the doorframe and he looked up, momentarily confused, as if he'd forgotten she lived there too. "Lily," he said, minimizing a few windows. "Is everything okay?" She wheeled herself into the room, stopping a few feet from his desk. "I wanted to talk about graduation." "It's next week," Thomas Chen nodded. "Yes, the school sent my speaking schedule. 20 minutes on innovation and future opportunities. Very straightforward." Lily took a deep breath. "Dad, I'm valedictorian. I'll be giving a speech too." For a moment, her father looked genuinely surprised. Then his expression shifted to something like pride mixed with regret. "That's wonderful, Lily. Your mother would have been so proud." The mention of her mother made Lily's throat tighten. "Will you stay for the whole ceremony? Not just your speech, but to see me too?" Her father glanced at his computer screens, then back at her. "Of course. I wouldn't miss it." But there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Calculation, perhaps. The same look he got when trying to solve a complex business problem. "There's something else," Lily continued, her hands gripping the wheels of her chair. "I've been doing community service at the downtown center, tutoring a girl named Nia. She and her dad might come to graduation too." "Community service?" Her father frowned. "Is that safe?" "Downtown isn't—" "It's fine, Dad," Lily interrupted. "The center is well run, and Nia's dad works at my school. He's a janitor there." The week before graduation passed in a blur of final exams, yearbook signings, and farewell parties. Through it all, Lily maintained her routine of tutoring at the community center, finding peace in helping Nia and the other students who had been added to her schedule. On Wednesday afternoon, she arrived to find Nia pacing outside the building, her face a mix of frustration and disappointment. "What's wrong?" Lily asked, instantly concerned. Nia stopped pacing and dropped onto the bench beside Lily's wheelchair. "Dad couldn't get his shift changed," she said, her voice tight. "His supervisor said it's non-negotiable. All hands on deck for the post-graduation cleanup and prep for summer programs. He has to start right after my ceremony ends." Lily's heart sank. She had grown to admire Bob during their brief interactions over the past 2 weeks. His dedication to his daughter and his hard work ethic reminded her of what she had lost when her mother died. That feeling of being truly seen and supported by a parent. "I'm so sorry," she said, reaching out to squeeze Nia's hand. "I know how much it meant to him to be there." Nia nodded, blinking rapidly. "He's heartbroken. Kept apologizing all morning like it's his fault his boss is a jerk." She took a deep breath, visibly composing herself. "Anyway, I'll still come to your ceremony. But I might be a little late if Dad needs a ride to work." "You don't have to," Lily began. "I want to," Nia interrupted firmly. "You've helped me so much with my applications. The least I can do is cheer for you when they call your name." Something about Nia's words triggered a thought in Lily's mind. "When they call my name," she repeated slowly. Then, "Nia, does your dad start his shift before or after the Westridge ceremony begins?" "After. He has to be there by 4 and your ceremony starts at 3, right?" Nia tilted her head curiously. "Why?" Lily felt a smile growing on her face. "What if he came to my graduation? He'd already be at the school for work. And," she hesitated, suddenly unsure of her idea, "and maybe he could sit with me, since my dad will be on stage as the keynote speaker and—" She trailed off, feeling vulnerable. Nia's expression transformed from confusion to understanding to excitement. "Lily, that's genius. Dad would love to be there for you. And honestly, he'd probably rather watch someone he knows graduate than buff floors." She squeezed Lily's hand. "Are you sure, though? I mean, we haven't known each other that long." The question made Lily pause. Was she sure? Was it strange to ask a man she barely knew to fill the role her father had left vacant? But deep down, she knew it wasn't about replacing her father. It was about having someone present who valued her for herself, not for her achievements or what she represented. "I'm sure," she said firmly. "If he's willing, I'd be honored to have him there." That evening, as Mr. Rodriguez drove her home, Lily stared out the window at the city lights, feeling lighter than she had in months. The arrangement wasn't perfect. Bob would arrive just before the ceremony began and would have to leave immediately after to start his shift. But it was something. Someone would be there specifically for her, watching as she wheeled across the stage to receive her diploma and deliver her speech. When she arrived home, the house was unusually active. Lights blazed from windows that were typically dark, and an unfamiliar car sat in the driveway. "Looks like your father has company," Mr. Rodriguez commented as he helped her from the car. Inside, Lily found her father in the living room, with a woman she recognized as his executive assistant, both surrounded by papers and laptops. "Lily," Thomas Chen looked up briefly. "We're finalizing details for the Tokyo trip. I'll be leaving right after graduation on Saturday." The words hit Lily like a physical blow. "You're flying out on graduation day? But I thought—" She stopped, aware of the assistant's presence. Her father glanced at his watch. It was unavoidable. "The Japanese team can only meet on Sunday their time, which means Saturday for us. But don't worry, I'll be there for your speech and to see you get your diploma." He smiled tightly. "I've even arranged for a photographer to capture the moment." A photographer. As if professional photos could replace genuine presence. As if her graduation were a corporate event to be documented rather than a personal milestone to be experienced. "Right," Lily said, her voice distant. "Well, I won't interrupt your work." She turned her wheelchair and headed to her room, ignoring her father's distracted, "We'll talk later." In her room, Lily stared at her reflection in the mirror. She had spent 3 years hoping her father would emerge from his grief and work obsession, waiting for him to see her, really see her again. And now, on one of the most significant days of her life, he was already planning his escape. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nia. "Dad says yes." "He's honored you asked. Says he can't wait to cheer for the smartest girl at Westridge when she gives her speech." The contrast between the warmth of that message and the cold business arrangement downstairs couldn't have been clearer. Lily texted back a simple thank you followed by heart emojis. not trusting herself with more words. Later that night, she heard her father's assistant leave and, soon after, a soft knock on her door. "Lily, may I come in?" Her father's voice called. She hesitated, then said, "It's open." Thomas Chen entered, looking tired but professionally composed as always. "I wanted to explain about Saturday. This deal could mean thousands of new jobs, including opportunities for graduates just like you and your classmates. It's why the school asked me to speak, to highlight real-world success and possibilities." Lily nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "I understand. Business is important." Something flickered in her father's eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or recognition of the wall between them. "Your speech, the valedictorian address, what time is that scheduled?" "Right after yours," Lily said. "The principal introduces you. You speak about innovation and opportunity. Then he introduces me, and I give the student address before they start calling names for diplomas." Her father nodded, making a note on his phone. "Good. Perfect. I'll make sure the photographer knows to get both speeches and the diploma moment." He looked up, his expression softening slightly. "Your mother would be so proud, Lily. She always knew you were destined for great things." The mention of her mother no longer brought immediate tears, just a dull ache and a wondering. What would she think of the distance that had grown between father and daughter? Would she recognize the man Thomas Chen had become in his grief? "Thanks, Dad," Lily said quietly. "Will you at least stay until I finish my speech?" A brief hesitation. "Of course. My flight isn't until early evening. I'll be there for all the important moments." As he left, Lily wondered what important moments meant to her father now. In the 3 years since the accident, he had missed her first day back at school, her first solo trip outside in her wheelchair, her acceptance to MIT, and countless smaller victories and struggles. What made graduation different? The publicity? The business connections? The fact that he could justify it as work rather than family time? Friday evening, the night before graduation, Lily attended her last tutoring session at the community center. The place had become a second home, a sanctuary where she was valued for her mind rather than pitied for her disability or defined by her father's status. Nia arrived with her father, who was carrying a small gift bag. "For you," Bob said, handing it to Lily with a shy smile. "Just a small graduation present. Nothing fancy." Inside, Lily found a delicate silver bookmark with stars engraved along its length and a small card that read, "For the next chapter of your amazing story." Congratulations, Bob and Nia. The simple thoughtfulness of the gift brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "Thank you. It's beautiful." Bob looked pleased but slightly embarrassed. "Nia mentioned you love astronomy and you're always reading those big science books, so—" "It's perfect," Lily assured him. She hesitated, then added, "I want to thank you both for everything these past few weeks. Not just the tutoring exchange, but for seeing me. The real me." Bob's expression grew serious. "That's what matters most in life, isn't it? Seeing people for who they really are, not what they have or don't have." He glanced at his watch. "I should let you two finish up. Big day tomorrow." He gave Nia a quick hug. "I'll pick you up at 9 for your ceremony, kiddo." As he walked away, Lily felt a pang of envy for the easy affection between father and daughter. She couldn't remember the last time her father had hugged her that naturally. "He's nervous about tomorrow," Nia confided once Bob was gone. "Keep saying he doesn't want to embarrass you sitting with the CEO's daughter and all." Lily shook her head. "He could never embarrass me. Honestly, it means everything that he's willing to be there." They spent the next hour finalizing Naya's scholarship applications, but their conversation kept drifting to graduation plans, summer hopes, and the promise to keep in touch despite heading to different colleges in the fall. As Mr. Rodriguez drove her home for the last time as a high school student, Lily watched the familiar streets pass by, aware that tomorrow marked not just an academic transition but a personal one as well. For 3 years she'd been waiting for her old life, and her old relationship with her father to somehow return. Tomorrow she would stop waiting and start building something new instead. At home, she found another note from her father, explaining he was at a pre-graduation dinner with school board members and would be home late. Graduation day dawned bright and clear, the June sun warming the air with the promise of summer. Lily woke early, a mixture of excitement and nervousness fluttering in her stomach. Today marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, both for her education and, she hoped, for her life beyond academics. As she carefully dressed in her blue outfit, Lily heard movement downstairs. Her father was actually home for once. She wheeled herself to the kitchen to find him making coffee, already dressed in an expensive suit, scrolling through emails on his phone. "Good morning," she said, rolling into the room. Thomas Chen looked up, his expression softening momentarily. "There's my graduate," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Ready for the big day?" Lily nodded. "I think so. My speech is ready, at least. I'm sure it'll be excellent." He glanced at his watch. "I need to get to the school early to meet with the principal and go over some technical details for my presentation. Will you be okay getting there on your own?" "I've arranged for the car service," of course he had. Heaven forbid they might arrive together as a family. "That's fine," Lily replied, keeping her voice neutral. "I need to be there early anyway for the graduate lineup." Her father nodded, seeming relieved. "Perfect. I'll see you there then." He hesitated, then set down his phone and coffee to approach her. Awkwardly, he bent to kiss the top of her head, a gesture that felt more formal than affectionate. "Your mother would be so proud today." It was the second time in 24 hours he'd invoked her mother, instead of expressing his own emotions. Lily wondered if he even knew what he felt anymore, or if he had buried those capabilities along with his wife. "Thanks, Dad," she said quietly. He straightened, picked up his coffee and phone, and with a final nod headed for the door. "The photographer will find you before the ceremony," he called over his shoulder. "She wants some posed shots for the company newsletter." The company newsletter. Of course, this wasn't just his daughter's graduation. It was a publicity opportunity. Lily sat in the empty kitchen after he left, trying to swallow her disappointment with a glass of orange juice. It was nothing she hadn't expected, yet it still stung. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nia. "Officially a high school graduate as of 10 minutes ago. Now it's your turn. Dad and I will be there by 2:30. He ironed his good shirt and everything. So excited for you." The simple message lifted Lily's spirits. She texted back her congratulations, adding, "Can't wait to see you both. Your dad doesn't need to dress up on my account." The response came quickly. "Too late. He's wearing a tie. I haven't seen him in a tie since Grandma's funeral." "This is serious." Lily smiled, picturing Bob's discomfort and his determination to show proper respect for her big day. The contrast with her own father's polished but distant approach couldn't have been starker. The morning passed in a whirl of preparations. The car arrived promptly at noon to take her to Westridge High for the pre-ceremony activities. As she approached the school, Lily could see the transformation. Blue and gold balloons adorned the entrance. A large "Congratulations Class of 2025" banner hung across the main doors, and students in graduation robes were already gathering, taking photos with friends and family. In the designated preparation room, Lily found her graduation robe and cap waiting on a specially marked table. The staff had been thoughtful about accessibility, something that hadn't always been the case during her years at Westridge. Her best friend Zoe bounced over, already in her robe, her face flushed with excitement. "Can you believe we made it?" "After everything?" Lily smiled, thinking of all they had been through together. Zoe had been the first to visit her in the hospital after the accident, the first to treat her normally when she returned to school in the wheelchair, the first to push her when she wanted to give up. "Couldn't have done it without you," Lily said honestly as she slipped the blue gown over her dress. Zoe helped adjust the graduation cap on Lily's head. "Your speech is going to kill. Just don't cry or I'll start crying, and you know what happens when I cry." They both laughed, remembering Zoe's notorious ugly crying face from their middle school production of Charlotte's Web. A photographer approached, introduced herself as being from Future Tech, and asked for a few quick shots of Miss Chen before the ceremony. Lily posed as requested, smiling dutifully, wondering if these photos would end up in her father's office, the daughter he could display but not connect with. As the graduates began lining up, Lily's phone vibrated one last time. A text from Bob. "We're here. Nia says to tell you we're sitting in the accessibility section, row 3. I'm the nervous-looking guy in the blue tie. You've got this, kiddo. The casual affection in the word made her throat tight. She tucked her phone away as the processional music began. The ceremony was held in Westridge's expansive football field, transformed with a stage, thousands of chairs, and floral arrangements. The June sun beat down on the graduates as they processed in, walking, or in Lily's case, wheeling, slowly to pomp and circumstance. From her position in the front row, arranged alphabetically, the Chens came early. Lily could see the stage where her father sat with the principal, the school board, and other dignitaries. He looked perfectly at ease, nodding at something the superintendent was saying, clearly in his element among the power players. The principal welcomed everyone, made a few announcements, then introduced Thomas Chen as one of our community's greatest success stories and a visionary leader in technology. Lily watched as her father approached the podium, confident and commanding. His speech was polished and inspiring, touching on innovation, perseverance, and future opportunities. He mentioned the changing job market, the importance of adaptability, the doors that technology could open. He quoted famous innovators and shared anecdotes from his company's rise to prominence. What he didn't mention was family, or personal loss, or the fact that his daughter sat among the graduates. It was as if that part of his life existed in a separate universe from his professional persona, untouchable, unacknowledged. As he concluded to enthusiastic applause, Lily felt a familiar hollowness. He had given exactly the speech expected of a successful CEO. No more, no less. Nothing personal, nothing vulnerable, nothing real. The principal returned to the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for those inspiring words. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our class valedictorian, a young woman whose academic achievements are matched only by her courage and determination. Please welcome Lily Chen. A murmur rippled through the audience as the connection between the keynote speaker and valedictorian became clear. Lily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of expectations as she wheeled herself up the ramp to the stage. Her father, returning to his seat, passed her with a nod and what might have been an encouraging smile, though it felt more like a business courtesy than paternal pride. At the podium, adjusted to her height, Lily looked out at her classmates and their families. In the third row of the accessibility section, just where he'd said he would be, sat Bob in a slightly too large blue tie, with Nia beside him. They both gave her thumbs up, their smiles wide and genuine. Lily had memorized her speech, carefully crafted words about perseverance, community, and finding strength in unexpected places. But looking out at those faces, her distracted father, her supportive friend, and this man who barely knew her but had shown up fully, she felt a need to speak from her heart instead. 4 years ago, she began, when we started high school, we all had certain expectations about how our journey would unfold. We expected challenges, yes, but predictable ones, difficult classes, social pressure, college applications. She paused. What most of us didn't expect were the curveballs, the global events that shaped our high school years, the personal losses that changed our paths, the moments that forced us to redefine success and happiness and family. From the corner of her eye, she saw her father shift in his seat, suddenly more attentive. 3 years ago, I lost my mother and the use of my legs in a car accident, Lily continued. Her voice steady despite the personal revelation. I expected my world to shrink after that. Limited by grief, limited by physical constraints, limited by others' perceptions. What I didn't expect was how much it would expand in other ways. She looked directly at Bob and Nia as she spoke next. I learned that family isn't just who you're born to, but who shows up for you. I learned that strength comes not from avoiding vulnerability, but from embracing it. And I learned that sometimes the most profound connections happen when we stop waiting for the world we lost and start building the world we need. Across the audience, she could see parents holding their children's hands, partners leaning against each other, friends with arms linked, so many kinds of love and connection visible and celebrated. Her father sat alone, his expression unreadable behind his perfect composure. As we leave Westridge today, Lily concluded, many of us will face unexpected challenges and surprising joys. My hope for each of us is that we'll have the courage to accept both, to let go of expectations that limit us, and to embrace possibilities that expand us. Because that's where real growth happens. Not in clinging to what should have been, but in creating what could be. The applause that followed was thunderous. Lily saw Bob on his feet, clapping with unrestrained enthusiasm, Nia beside. 2 weeks after graduation, Lily sat in the garden of her family's home, enjoying the early summer warmth. Her laptop rested on a small table beside her wheelchair, open to the MIT housing accommodation form she'd been working on all morning. The excitement of her upcoming college adventure was tempered only by the practical challenges of navigating campus life with a disability. The sound of the garden gate opening made her look up. Her father walked toward her, dressed more casually than usual in slacks and a button-down shirt without a tie. He carried a tray with 2 glasses of lemonade. "Thought you might like something cold," he said, setting the tray on the table. "You've been out here for hours." Lily smiled, pleasantly surprised. "Thanks, Dad, just trying to figure out all the housing details for fall." Thomas Chen pulled a chair closer and sat, something he rarely did these days, simply sitting with her without an agenda or distraction. Since his return from Tokyo a week ago, small changes had been noticeable. He arrived home before 8 most evenings. He asked questions about her day. He left his phone in another room during dinner. They weren't massive shifts, but they were meaningful ones. "Any issues with the accommodations?" he asked, gesturing to her laptop. Lily shrugged. "Nothing major. Just trying to decide between 2 housing options. One is closer to the engineering buildings, the other has better accessibility features, but a longer commute to classes." Her father nodded thoughtfully. "What about weather considerations? Boston winters can be rough with snow and ice." The practical question touched Lily unexpectedly. It was exactly the kind of real-world concern that showed he was thinking about her daily life, not just big-picture achievements. "That's a good point," she admitted. "I hadn't factored that in enough." They discussed the options for a while, her father asking questions that helped clarify her thinking without pushing his own preferences. It felt normal. The kind of parent-child conversation she had missed for so long. Eventually, their talk shifted to the evening ahead. Bob and Nia were coming for dinner, the meal her father had proposed on graduation day. Lily had been surprised when he followed through on the invitation, even more surprised when he insisted on cooking himself rather than having their usual housekeeper prepare the meal. "Do you think they'll be comfortable here?" Thomas asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "It's a bit much." He gestured vaguely at their surroundings, the expansive garden, the swimming pool visible beyond the rose bushes, the large house with its floor-to-ceiling windows and modern architecture. Lily considered the question. "They're not the kind of people who judge others by what they have or don't have," she said carefully. "But maybe we could eat in the kitchen instead of the formal dining room. It's more relaxed." Her father nodded, seeming relieved at the suggestion. "The kitchen it is." He hesitated, then added, "I've been thinking about what you said in your speech, about family being who shows up for you." Lily felt her heartbeat quicken. They hadn't directly discussed her graduation speech yet, though its impact hung in the air between them. "Bob showed up for you when I was—" Thomas trailed off, struggling to find the right words. "When I was physically present but emotionally absent," he finally said. "I've been that way for too long, Lily, since we lost your mother." The direct acknowledgement of his emotional distance brought unexpected tears to Lily's eyes. For 3 years they had danced around this truth, never naming it outright. "I miss her too, Dad," she said softly. "Every day." Thomas nodded, his own eyes growing moist. "After the accident, I couldn't face what happened. To her, to you. It was easier to bury myself in work where I knew how to succeed than to figure out how to be a father to a grieving, injured daughter when I was barely holding myself together." He took a deep breath. "That's not an excuse. It's just where I was. But seeing Bob with you at graduation, the way he simply showed up, no hesitation, no awkwardness about your wheelchair, it made me realize how much I've failed you." "You haven't failed me," Lily protested automatically. Her father smiled sadly. "It's kind of you to say that, but we both know it's not true. I've been physically providing but emotionally absent. That's a kind of failure." He reached out hesitantly and covered her hand with his. "But I'd like to do better if you'll let me try. I can't change the past 3 years, but maybe we can build something different going forward." The simple sincerity in his words touched something deep in Lily's heart. This wasn't her father, the CEO, speaking in polished phrases. This was just her dad, vulnerable and human. "I'd like that," she said, turning her hand to squeeze his. "And it's never too late to start showing up." "Dad, that's kind of what I was trying to say in my speech." A comfortable silence fell between them. broken only by the sound of birds in the garden and the distant hum of a lawnmower. For the first time in years, Lily felt truly at peace in her father's presence. No expectations, no disappointments, just two people finding their way back to each other. Later that evening, Lily positioned herself in the kitchen, watching with amusement as her father fussed over the pasta he was preparing. Thomas Chen, tech innovator and CEO, was surprisingly adept in the kitchen, a talent Lily had forgotten about until today. Before the accident, Sunday night dinner had been his domain, a family tradition inherited from his own father. "Should I have made something fancier?" he asked, tasting the sauce. "This seems too simple." Lily shook her head. "Pasta is perfect." Nia mentions her dad's spaghetti at least once a week. "I think it's their go-to meal." The doorbell rang and Lily felt a flutter of nervous excitement. "I'll get it," she said, wheeling toward the front door. Bob and Nia stood on the porch, both looking slightly out of place but smiling. Bob held a small potted plant and Nia clutched a bakery box. "We brought housewarming gifts," Nia announced. "Well, dinner-warming gifts. Dad insisted we couldn't come empty-handed." Lily welcomed them in, leading them through the house toward the kitchen. She noticed Bob taking in the surroundings with wide eyes but appreciated that he made no comment about the obvious wealth on display. In the kitchen, Thomas wiped his hands on a dish towel and stepped forward to greet them. "Mr. Taylor, Nia, thank you for coming. Please make yourselves comfortable." Bob handed him the plant. "Just a little basil for your windowsill. Always useful in the kitchen." "Perfect for pasta," Thomas said, looking genuinely pleased. "And please call me Thomas." The initial awkwardness began to fade as they settled around the kitchen island. Thomas served the pasta while Lily poured drinks. The simple domesticity of the scene in stark contrast to the formal business dinners that typically took place in their home. Conversation flowed more easily than Lily had expected. Nia talked about her summer job at the library and her excitement about starting community college in the fall. Bob shared funny stories from his years working at Westridge. Thomas, to Lily's surprise, asked thoughtful questions and offered to connect Nia with the scholarship foundation his company supported. "No strings attached," he added quickly. "You're clearly a motivated student. The foundation is always looking to support young people like you." As the meal progressed, Lily observed the subtle dynamics at play. Her father, usually the most commanding presence in any room, seemed to be studying Bob. The way he listened attentively to both girls, his natural ease in expressing pride in his daughter, his unpretentious confidence. Meanwhile, Bob showed no intimidation, despite the obvious differences in their social and economic status. He was simply himself, genuine, kind, occasionally funny in a dad joke way. After dinner, they moved to the patio for dessert, the chocolate cake Nia had brought, which turned out to be homemade. Nia's specialty, Bob explained proudly. Secret recipe from her grandmother. As they enjoyed the cake, the conversation turned to summer plans. Lily mentioned the physics program she would be attending in July, a pre-college preparation course at MIT. "She'll be gone for 3 weeks, Thomas said, a hint of wistfulness in his voice. "The house will be too quiet." "Dad's actually taking some time off this summer," Lily added, still surprised by this development. "First vacation in years that isn't a business trip in disguise," Thomas nodded. "Overdue according to my executive team. They've practically ordered me to disconnect." Bob smiled. "Good for you. Time moves too fast, especially with kids. 1 minute they're starting kindergarten, the next they're headed to college." He glanced at Nia with obvious affection. "That's what I'm starting to realize," Thomas said quietly. "You can't get those years back once they're gone." A comfortable silence fell as they all contemplated his words. The evening sky was turning golden as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the garden. "This is a beautiful place," Bob commented, looking out at the carefully landscaped grounds. "Must be a lot to maintain," Thomas nodded. "It is. My wife designed most of it. She had an amazing eye for beauty." He paused, then added softly, "I couldn't change anything after she died. Even when plants failed, I had them replaced with exactly the same varieties." It was the most he had spoken about Lily's mother in years. Lily felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Maybe it's time to add something new," she suggested gently. "Not to replace anything, but to let the garden grow and change. Mom would have wanted that." Her father looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're right.